Hello everybody. So today I'd like to answer a very common question that I get, which is why do you keep your business in New York? Why don't you simply move out of New York? And there are about 3 reasons that I stay in New York. Before I get started even describing why I keep my business in New York, just so we're on the same page, I have for almost the entirety of my life, especially when I have glimpses to leave New York City and see what it's like in other civilized areas of the country, I think that New York is a cesspool. It is very expensive. People here are high stress and meaner than they are in most other parts of the country. It is nasty. It is grimy. The city is half done. Everything is under construction, typically under construction half-assed because if I made this play any nicer, you couldn't afford it. I'm not here because I have any sort of fantasies that it's just so amazing and great here. And most of the people that say if you want to make it, you move to New York, they're in my opinion, a 60s, 70s, 80s, maybe even 90s mindset, back when location was absolutely crucial to getting your name out there and becoming successful. I did not move here to become successful. I simply was born here, so since I was born here, I started a business here, and it evolved that way. So, let's go over the 3 reasons that I am in New York. The first, above all, is the fact that I have spent 10 and a half years, actually 11 at this point, building up a client base. 11 years of time building up a client base. Those are people who are going to refer their friends, and these are all individuals that if they had to mail their device out somewhere else, would not do so. So there is a lot of clients that I get here. Yes, we do have a lot of mail-in business, but there's 2 things to consider there. The first is that mail-in business is typically max 40 to 45% of the overall. The second is that even if it is 40 to 45% of the revenue, the mail-in business in and of itself it's not something that you could just define in dollar terms because that would be missing out a crucial piece of data. Mail-in repairs are all things that somebody else is screwed with already. So you, in this business, you always want to be the first person getting the device. You want to get the device while there's corrosion on the JTAG connector. You don't want to get it after somebody put it in rice and then their friend opened it up and tried to fix it and removed all the little spots of corrosion so you know what was wrong with it. And then they brought it to a place like L2 where God knows what happened to it or in their locale. And then it gets sent to you after 3 people have worked on it. So not only is mail-in repair 40 to 45% on a good month of the revenue, less than that usually, but the mail-in repair is also considerably more difficult. What would typically be a 5 to 10 minute job on a walk-in repair winds up being a 40-minute to 2-hour job on a mail-in repair, because before somebody decides, I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it in the mail, nobody wants to send their stuff in the mail. Even if you make it easy, even if you send them a box that has a label inside of it to send it to them that's all set, it's a nice little laptop box, they don't want to do that. They want to have it fixed locally and they want to have it fixed quickly, and they don't want to trust sending it to somebody that they can't see or meet. So it's going to be screwed with, which means that the repair is going to be difficult. So even if it is the same amount, even if the repair is 40 to 45%, even if mail-in is 40 to 45% of the work, you have to consider that 40 to 45% of the work is going to have a labor cost that's 20, 30, 40% higher because those repairs take a lot more time to do because they've been screwed with before they were sent to you. Next thing to consider is that even if you move somewhere else, that you are starting over. So I don't want to give up that amount of walk-in repair business. Again, if you're willing to give up 40 or 50 or 60 or 70 or $80,000 a month in business, you're probably a lot richer than I am. But if I were to, let's just say, try to start over somewhere else, here's where I'm coming from. So I'm here, keep in mind here, I'm using Tor browser. I don't have, when I'm using Tor browser here, I don't have any cookies. I've removed all of that. So this doesn't have any of my history. We're just going to browse over to google.com, and as you can see, it doesn't even think I'm in America. Now watch what happens when I search MacBook Repair New York. Okay, it's going to want, it thinks I'm a robot. We're just going to click the buses. You're a bus, you're a bus, you're a bus. Something else probably identifies as a, but there we go. It's a bus since it didn't let me go through, so I did this. Okay, now what do you see showing up here? MacBook Repair in New York City, because Google is so great, their algorithm is so amazing, that after everything they've said about how we care about the relevance of the content, at the end of the day, you win if your website's name is the fucking search term. But I digress. Look, here. So this is 4.664 reviews. This is 4.9, 628 reviews. That smashes that, and I show up right there on the first page. Apple Repair Club, 4.9 stars, good rating, but 100 reviews, not as many. right over here, my website, bam, shows up. Then there are the Yelp results over here, and you can click those. So I immediately show up. Look, right over here, bam, Louis Rossmann. If you go to Yelp, it says I'm not allowed to access that page, probably because I'm using Tor. But if I were to access in another browser, I also show up in the top on Yelp as well. If I want to search for MacBook logic board repair, New York, like bam, right there. I'm there again. I'm there again. So on the first page, I show up 1, 2, 3 times. It's just amazing. So if I do MacBook screen repair Manhattan, let's say MacBook screen repair Manhattan. I show up a little less, bam. I haven't put as much effort into it. I show up twice, not once, but twice, which is pretty good on the first page. Now watch what happens if I just do MacBook screen repair. Yeah, I don't exist anymore. I'm gone. This is why there's more walk-in business than local, because I've built up a reputation in this particular area. I'm also, granted I'm here in a YouTube video, but it's not quite the same. Now watch what happens if you search locally. So MacBook repair Wisconsin. Where's Lewis? You know, not there. And the thing is, it takes quite a bit of time to get over there. So the reason that I have all those people walking in over here is because I have put a lot of time and a lot of effort into building a website that answers people's questions. I have done a lot of, and I've been local to this area for 11 years. It's going to take a long time to build that up in a new area to where it is right now. So now if I move so that I could save a few $1,000s on rent, but I wind up losing out on $20 or $40 or $60 or $80,000 in business, that doesn't seem like a great deal now, does it? Now, the next thing over here, many people have asked, why don't you simply separate your shops? Why don't you have this place, the shiny store where you take consumers in, and then a warehouse somewhere else where you transport the stuff to, where all the actual work gets done? And that's also an excellent question. So in order to answer that question, I am going to refer you to my own website. So one of the problems that I notice a lot of businesses have is, as they grow or as they expand, they forget what it is that made them successful in the first place. And this is often because you have different management teams working to try to solve problems or to try to grow the business, and the people who started it, there were people who weren't there from the beginning. They're not really aware of what took you from, 0 to 100. And the thing is, getting from 0 to 100 is a lot harder than getting from 100 to 1,000 or 1,000 to 1,000,000 and so on and so forth. And if you don't know what it is that took you from nothing to getting somewhere, if you don't remember what it is that sets you apart, even if you're doing well now, you're going to start sliding off later on because you forgot what it is that made you special. So if I simply read my own website, if I were to go over here, what does this say? No idiots, no salespeople, no bureaucracy, no bullshit. It says here, experienced staff. Inexperienced technicians take a lot of time to work on your device, blah, blah, blah. But if you take, I had to shorten this because it was really a big TLDR. If you actually go back 5 years ago on the Wayback Machine, let me show you the part that matters the most here. So if I go about us, we believe in business transparency in our shop. You can talk directly to a technician. Our shop is not set up with a mysterious backroom repair area and a clueless customer service rep up front. You'll even see our receptionist cracking over iPads. We want you to see what we do and be engaged in a one-on-one discussion with the people who are actually going to work on your machine. And if you go over here, you'll even see, once the Wayback Machine loads it, that I actually have a comic for what it's like when you deal with franchises that don't know what the F they're doing. And this guy comes in saying there's some dust and a dirty hinge, then it gets sent off to this facility, hinge is broken. Logic board needs ultrasonic. Well, if it needs ultrasonic cleaning, that must mean that it was water damaged, and and then it winds up becoming $400 for a tightened hinge and just blowing out the dust. And this, you may laugh at this, you may think this is silly or stupid, but I worked at 2 facilities where this would happen on a regular basis, and it was because they were doing this type of thing to try and save money and be slick. And I've been in this business for 11 years. I've worked with a lot of different franchises that were outsourcing repairs, and one of the things that sets us apart here is that you're within earshot of the person who's doing data recovery on your drive and opening it up, or reattaching 50 things on your phone and then trying to cool it using something I'm not going to show you because you'll laugh if I put it on camera so that it doesn't overheat while you're doing the backup. But that's the thing that makes this place special. When you go somewhere else, people who are not involved in business or are not involved specifically in our business don't understand how it is. When customers come in, they are very, very anxious, and they are going to grill you. They are going to shit test you very hard to figure out if you know what you're doing, if their data is safe with you, if they can trust you with their thousands of dollars of data and device. They're going to grill you as hard as they can. And if you can't answer every single one of their questions quickly, confidently, with a proper, accurate answer that really shows that you know your stuff and you're just not reading from a script, they're gone. They're going to go to somewhere else. The reason I know this is because there are customers who went to other places where they were just reading from their script or said, I don't know, that is for the tech to know and he's not around right now, or blah, blah, blah. I know that it doesn't work because I take those places customers. Since I've opened in this area, in a quarter-mile radius around me, 3 other stores that do this very same thing had closed within years of me opening. And it's because we have that customer-first mindset of understanding what it is the customer needs. So I'll give you just one basic example of a very common reason for those said competitors that are gone to have gotten a 1-star review for something. Let's say that you did outsourced board repair, right? They left it off, even if they were able to answer all the questions right. Let's say you're working with devices that are, let's say, liquid damaged or dropped or very in bad condition. And they drop it off, you outsource it, you send it off to the facility, they FedEx overnight it back, you test it, it works, you put it in the slot, you call the customer, you tell them they can pick up, they come to pick up, they hit the power button, it turns on, and 2 seconds later it turns off. Now, if you are doing outsourcing, you have to, A, come up with bullshit as to why that happened, B, tell them, I'm sorry, I have no idea why that happened, and then C, tell them, okay, we have to send it out again. Sorry, I know you took 40 minutes out of your day on the train to come here, but not much I can do. Whereas with our store, what we can do if something like that happens, and it will happen if you're working on liquid damaged devices on a regular basis. So sorry, here, have a candy, take a seat, play some Street Fighter, look in the microscope, see what's going on, make a few measurements. 90% of the time, oh yeah, this one little thing was missed. I'm so sorry. Let me show you what it was so you have confidence that it's not going to do this again. And here, you're on your way. Or, hey, I'm really sorry. This is not something that's going to be simple. Here, you can take a donor from the window to use in the meantime. Or whatever it is, you have the ability to solve problems much quicker when you don't have most of your staff outsourced to another facility. It makes things more difficult if you are competing with places that are not doing that. Now, I realize that my business's growth is not just because, granted, some of it is luck, some of it's being in the right place at the right time, but a lot of it is understanding what customers want. A lot of it is understanding what other places are not doing well so that I can take any single part of the customer experience that is not being done well at other businesses and beat it here. Now, I probably could survive with some sort of split setup like that, but A, it adds to the complications of things, and above all, B, it waters down the customer service experience. Just because, and here's the thing, just because I have been in business for 11 years, and I've gained a YouTube following, and I've gained a #1 ranking on Google, and I've gained a client base, that doesn't mean that that won't all go away tomorrow the moment I stop caring about the customer. I could probably ride that out and give the customer a slightly shittier experience and live on brand name and change the things that I know made me successful. But the reality is that the moment that I do that, I realize it's very, very hard to build a brand name, but it only takes one day, one moment, one set of screw-ups before it all crashes. And once it crashes, people don't trust you anymore because they feel like they were lied to, they feel like they were cheated, they feel like what you represented is not actually what they got. And sure, by all means, I'm sure there are customers out there that had a bad experience. Maybe they had a very difficult to fix machine. Maybe somebody who was having a bad day. Maybe it was just a problem that's not easy to fix. Maybe I fucked up. But that is going to be in the extreme minority. That is not going to be an actual policy that I put into place that makes us one step closer to the franchises that don't know what the F they're doing. So when people say, well, you should just have a nice, sexy store where you have 1 or 2 people that accept things, and then you send it off to the location where the real techs do the fixing, what happens when customers start asking hard questions? What happens when something unexpected happens or it doesn't work? What happens when they come back for a warranty issue and they really want to know exactly what it is that's causing this because they spent a lot of money and they want to know so that they can retain trust in the machine and above all you. And you don't really know how to answer it because, well, you ain't the person that knows what you're doing. And the person that knows what they're doing is away in some other facility. This is something that I don't think a lot of people think about. And for me, it's very important that I maintain the qualities about the business that made it successful. Just because we have a good Google ranking, just because I make more money now than I did 10 years ago, just because we have a YouTube following, every single day I realize that all of that could be erased if I make one bad decision that discounts the customer experience. Thirdly, human capital. At a business, you're not just growing your equity. You're also growing human capital, particularly if you're training people or if you're working with people or you've created an environment where they can learn things that they otherwise wouldn't have learned if they're on their own. So some of the people that have been here for 2 years, 3 years. People like Steve have been here almost 7 years. Steve started here as a salesperson, and now he is opening drives, doing data recovery, getting data off of drives that places that charge $4,000 to $6,000 have said probably is not going to be possible, and he's doing it for under $1,000. He's very good at what he does. And what people don't get is when you move, all those people are not going to want to leave with you. You know, the people, if you say, I'm going to go to Texas, or I'm going to go to Kansas, or I'm going to go to, Mississippi, or Missouri, or Florida, or whatever, you then have to rip out all the people that were there and tell them, I'm sorry, I know that you've built a life for yourself here. I know that you've put down roots here, started a family here, have friends here. Yeah, if you want to keep your job, you got to go 3,000 miles in that direction. That's kind of a dick thing to do. But besides the fact that it's a dick thing to do, from a purely, not just pure capitalist businessman standpoint, you have to start from scratch finding all of those people. Because one of the things that you should do, any company should have a guide so that if you need to hire a new shipping person or you need to hire a new salesperson or whatever, that the company can run even if the best person leaves. You have a perfect guide on how to do that person's job. But no matter how good you make a guide, nobody is fully replaceable. And there's many books on business where they say if you want to scale, if you want to franchise, everybody has to be replaceable. But the reality is if you have something special going, if you have something going that is not replicated at almost any other business that you walk into that does the same thing, you don't want to try to just distill that into a binder. It's good to have it so that your business can still run. If that person gets run over by a truck on their skateboard or takes a week or a month vacation or just happens to quit, you don't want it to be devastating because they took all their knowledge with them. But at the same time, you don't want it to be where everything is in the book and none of it is in the people. There's a lot of human capital that's been built up here. People like Paul that could fix boards that virtually nobody else can fix if you give him 3 hours and, I guess a shot of Jim Beam for when there's a missing PM Sleep S5L. Or people like Steve, you're not going to... They're 1 in 100,000 kind of picks. They really are. These are 1 in 100,000 people you're going to find that have the level of dedication, care, but also the skill set that they have. And if you give that up and you think that going from the top of the cream of the crop human capital to bare minimum, I'm just going to find somebody that has a qualification and have them read this manual and that everything's going to go the same, it's not going to go the same. It's not just the whole being nice thing of I don't want to uproot people who have been loyal to this place for 2 to 4 to 7 years. It's also the fact that you will actually lose out in the long term. How much time does it take to find somebody who's as good, if not better, than a Drive Savers technician? How hard is it to find somebody who is on Duke's level from the guy that used to answer my forum stuff? How hard is it going to be to find somebody with that level of analytical thinking if I'm just picking? Because I could find another board repair person. I could find another PC3000 operator, but you're not going to find another one of them. And you can, but again, what we're looking to do when in a growth stage is no downgrades. I don't want to downgrade location. I don't want to downgrade staff. I don't want to downgrade the convenience of getting to the place. I don't want to downgrade the amount of space. I don't want to downgrade the convenience. Every time that I've grown from here to here to here to here, I've made sure that A, I do it in a sustainable way, but also B, that nothing is being downgraded. I don't want to downgrade in any way, shape, or form as I'm growing, because when you grow, you're taking on new expenses. And when you take on new expenses, you don't want to take on new expenses and have any sort of potential serious loss in revenue because you've changed an important element of the business, an important driver. And what sets us apart? What sets us apart is the way we do things, the people that we have here, the processes that we have here. So even if I were to change people, we still have the general process that The person who does the work is somebody that's actually accessible and can hear what's going on, or somebody that is good at what they do can hear what's going on, understand if a conversation is going kind of awry in the front, and so on and so forth. So TLDR, not leaving New York because A, way too much profitable walk-in business comes in through here, to the point where even if I'm paying $12,000 or $13,000 a month in rent, it pales in contrast to the amount of business that comes in here that would not show up in another area. NYU, New School students, Baruch students, all showing up with their little JTAG connectors that need to be ripped off, minutes after the spill happened. That's beautiful. B, there is elements of the business that you lose if you start doing that split nonsense where we're gonna pay the retail storefront but have it be really small, but that's just gonna be for intake, and then have the fixing stuff somewhere else. That pretty much brings you to all of the pitfalls that every other company that does that has, which is the decreased quality of communication or decreased quality of experience during intake, and also when they pick up, because you're just not going to be able to speak to the individuals that did it. And 3, loss of human capital, losing the people that helped you make your company what it is, but also losing the people that are just head and shoulders better than the people that you're going to find, unless you get A, really lucky, or B, spend 6 months to a year or so looking for somebody who is just as good. Again, can you replace somebody? If Paul gets hit by a bus tomorrow, hopefully he doesn't, can I find somebody else who can do his job? Yes, but it's not going to be the same as having him. And it would take me probably I can find somebody who could take the chair in a few days, but to find somebody who is as good, that's going to take a long time. And you want to minimize these types of shocks that are going to affect the quality of service that your business can offer to customers when you're moving and taking on more expenses. Because if you're moving and taking on more expenses, you cannot afford a downgrade in any one of these areas. And this is one of the reasons that I decided not to take that restaurant, even though that guy keeps crawling back. At this point, he started at $10,000 and 0 months free. Then $10,000 a month free, then $10,000 and 2 months free, then $10,000 and 3 months free, then $10,000 and 6 months free. Now he's at $9,000 and 6 months free, and I still don't want it, because I made an executive decision that I don't want to downgrade convenience. Right now, I am 2 blocks away from a major train, and I'm on an avenue with heavy foot traffic. Do I want to find out if when I'm 9 or 14 blocks away from the train in an area with less foot traffic, if I still have as much business? Maybe I do. Maybe people are willing to walk anyway. Maybe they're not. But I'm not willing to find that out after I make a move or a change that's going to affect me to the tune of 6 figures. If I'm going to take on that expense, I need to make sure that that growth curve continues. And the best way to ensure that that growth curve continues is to remember what made you successful and be loyal to that which made you successful. Be loyal to the people that made you successful, as well as being loyal to the practices and policies that made you successful. So hopefully this explains why I am not looking to just uproot and move my store to a new state. And as always, I hope you learned something.